Do you walk with a stiff knee? If so, this video is for you. I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'm going to explain why you may walk with a stiff knee, plus 2 easy tips that you can use to be able to walk more normally without your knee bothering you. So first of all, why do people walk with a stiff knee? Well, largely, if you walk with a stiff knee, it's because you're having trouble bending your knee. Now, it doesn't really take that much knee bending to be able to take a step. In fact, we only use a very small portion of our range of motion when we're going to take a step when we're walking. But there is a muscle in your thigh called the rectus femoris. It's one of your 4 quadricep muscles, and that muscle actually crosses the hip. And so when you're going to take a step, you're in hip extension where your hip is back this way, and then if you have to bend your knee at the same time, if you have stiffness in your rectus femoris, then you may have trouble bending your knee. Now, your kneecap actually sits inside your quadricep muscles. And so as you're going to bend your knee as you're walking, if you have stiffness of the quadricep muscles, it presses the back of the kneecap up against your thigh bone. And if you have knee arthritis or chondromalacia or some other problem between the kneecap and the thigh, such as patellofemoral pain syndrome, then you may get pain when that kneecap starts pressing against the thigh bone. And so as a result, people just try to walk without bending their knee so much so that they don't get that compression. And so tip number 1 is an exercise to help improve the flexibility of your rectus femoris. Now, just bending your knee up like this doesn't help improve your rectus femoris flexibility. Additionally, when people do a quad stretch like this, which is supposed to help your rectus femoris, they get their back arching into it a lot. And really, you don't need this much flexibility in your knee to take a step. What you do need to be able to do is bend that knee under your own power. And a lot of that comes from pushing off the toes and then being able to clear that foot enough to get through. And so the exercise that we're going to do first is just practicing getting in this hip extension position and then bending your knee up like this with your hip extended. You're not using your hand, you're not using a towel, you're just using your own muscles to bend it up. Now, what you should feel is you should actually feel your glutes working here. Your glute or butt muscles holding your hip in extension, and then your hamstrings, which are also hip extensors, but also knee flexors or knee benders. And so you're bending up at the knee with your hip in extension, come back down, bend up, come back down. Now you may note I'm leaning on the wall here for balance. If you can do this on your own, just standing on one leg and then bending up, that's great. But if you do have some balance issues, hold on to a wall or a piece of furniture so that you don't fall over. And so that's the first quick tip, is just bending the knee with the hip in extension. Do 15 to 20 repetitions of this, just back and forth. You don't really have to hold it for a prolonged period of time because you're not going into a prolonged stretch when you're walking. It's more of just a quick bend and then release. So that's the first tip. Now, tip number 2 isn't actually an exercise per se. It's more of a way to think about moving when you're walking, because ultimately you have to be able to execute this in real time as you're going about your everyday activities. Now, a lot of people, when they're walking, they learn to do a heel to toe pattern like that. But what that encourages is pulling forwards with your hamstrings, and you have to do a lot of active knee bending to clear your knee through. But the way you're actually supposed to walk is pushing off the toes of your back foot. So instead of being a front wheel drive where you're pulling forward with the leg that's in front, you're doing a rear wheel drive where you're pushing off the rear foot to take a next step. And what that does is it creates momentum to bring your knee through. So when you're walking, instead of kind of swinging that leg around to pull forwards, think about pushing off the toes of the back foot, and that's naturally going to cause your knee to bend a little bit so that you can swing it through. So again, to summarize those 2 tips, if you have knee stiffness when you walk, then try bending your knee, but doing it with your hip in extension and using your own muscles to do it. And then when you are walking, think about pushing off the toes of your back foot. So hopefully this did help you to be able to walk a little bit more comfortably. Now, if you have more problems with knee stiffness, I do have some other videos that address that topic and some tips that you can use to be able to stand up without knee stiffness, as well as some other exercises to help with your knee stiffness. So I'll shoot you over those in just a moment. But before you go, if you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.